Blow a shot of nice into it, baby. And hang out.
Yeah, 50, 60, 75. You hear that? You hear that? 50, 60, 75. My boy Wishman's on the
bad
beat.
for it, like swerve.
50, 60, 75. Up to downtown in the heavenly rock.
The reason we decided to bring Rush back was we're a new management team. David Zucker joined the company just about 18 months ago. I joined about a year ago, and he's already implemented the strategy 6 months in to bring back Area 51, to bring back NARC and kind of reinvent it. When I got there, we were getting lots of emails through investor relations to the marketing group. Hey, what are you guys doing with Rush? We want to see Rush come back. We love it. Literally, I mean, hundreds of them. We decided to go forward and find a way to bring back Rush, what's the right thing to do, who's the right developer to do it with. We ended up deciding to do it internally, collaboratively with Europe, and it's been a good thing. Yeah, actually a lot of the guys who work on this product have directly supervised or been a part of the Need for Speed series, have been a part of Destruction Derby, have been a part of, some of them worked on some of the test drive games, and even Driver. The approach we're doing to Rush is really unique because it's this open-ended, free-roaming engine. There's never been a racing game that's truly been free-roaming, meaning you can cut through someone's backyard, you can hang out in the world and drive around and just cause mayhem as much as you'd like before progressing the game, much like you see in Grand Theft Auto or True Crime, but it's a driving game, not a crime game. So that's never been done. Well, what was important first was to make sure that we could clearly identify a unique position for ourselves, that Rush still meant something sort of as the father of arcade racing games. Burnout has carved out quite a niche for itself as an arcade racing game that everybody loves. So we looked at Rush, Rush is all about these huge jumps and shortcuts, and we looked at what the team that we were looking at had the ability to do, and it was to do this open tech, and that said we could look back and say we can do incredible shortcuts. This is really an evolutionary step. This technology lets us do everything that Rush, if the old Midway did Rush today, this is what it would be. We don't, you don't pick all the parts. West Coast Customs guys pick the parts. They're real parts. You upgrade your car. Those guys tell you what they decided to do for you. You have a little bit of that, but it's really about the crazy action. So we do things that no game lets you do so far. No racing. Semi-trucks on the freeway. If you're being chased by the cops or you're in a congested traffic jam, you can duck underneath semi-trucks to create an open lane. You can jump. There are races that have a sort of a winning situation that require a jump from a parking garage roof to another parking garage roof to actually finish the race, and only the first 3 or 4 racers across the jump will make it before the jump disintegrates. Those are things, gameplay elements that are very appropriate for Rush that are not part of any of those games. Your rival in the game has got a lot of businesses around LA, and so there's one of the things you have to do is he's got a new marketing campaign with like 15 billboards all over the city. They're incredibly cheesy, campy billboards, and your goal is to kind of torpedo that campaign. So you have to find all 15 billboards and find a way up to the tops of some pretty high buildings or off of some pretty high hills to get to these billboards, crash through them to kind of torpedo the marketing campaign. Or you have to destroy one of his businesses, is a construction business. You have to destroy an entire construction site before his goons come and get you. So it's very, those things are actually a lot like things you may find in like Driver or Grand Theft Auto, but then they also have this racing game undertone that drives it all. In real street racing, fortunately or unfortunately, there's always real traffic, there's always cops around, so our races start with your race opponents, but also there's tons of cross traffic, tons of scripted events. The cops, if you pass any cop going more than 60 miles an hour, they're going to chase all the cars. So by the end of a race, it gets pretty hairy. Well, the open world is there for you to take advantage of, but races have a set course for the most part. Only from the standpoint of there's a start and a finish, and there's checkpoints. Much like to use a common example, Midnight Club, right? They're also an open city, but you have to point people to a basic direction. Between any given checkpoint, there might be as many as 5 or 6 ways you could get there, and usually the most clearly laid out way is not the fastest way. So it's going to be up to the player to look for AI cars that are taking shortcuts to see if that's the shortcut or not the shortcut. And by the time you kind of sort through each mission or each race, you're going to find the best path to the end. We have about 35 licensed cars in the game, which will be announced in the next few weeks. Then we have about 20 concept cars. So the cars all take damage. The licensed cars cannot, old Rush games, the cars used to blow up when they took so much damage. We can't do that with our licensed partners. The partners who are in the game allowed us to damage the cars. So we have a pretty extensive damage model. So the cars will crumple in some points up to 4 times based on where the cars hit. So by the end of a race, if it's been particularly tough or particularly brutal, the cars will look pretty damaged, but they'll never blow up. One of the other stipulations, which you didn't see in the video, but you will see when you go to E3, is that we actually have pedestrians walking around in the world too. We can't hit any pedestrians, so we have, one of the things we're working out now is that they get out of the way in time. Sometimes they don't get out of the way in time, and that's why we couldn't show you today, but you'll see that at E3. Some of the missions, which are a little more extreme, is where we actually take the opportunity to use, fictitious cars, like an armor-plated SUV that it's like a car that you'd see in the real world, but is not licensed for real, because that allows us to go in and damage. You couldn't take a licensed car like a Humvee and damage a construction site. So we go back and forth between some of the licensed cars and some of the cars built, for you by West Coast Customs. Yeah, we have split screen right now. We're working on the online. The one we have online functional. What's a challenge right now, and it's better to be completely open to you guys and to our customers, is that we're working online, but what happens is the game has so much objects in the world, we have to turn off a lot of the objects. So there's some debate going on right now, is that if you give them this sandbox to play in, and then you have to turn off the majority of traffic and other things, is it fun to play online or is it a downer? So we're going to be testing that. We're not sure this generation, because we literally in some scenes you can have 20 or 30 civilian or objects, people and cars and cops, and it's hard to get those things synced up. The cars racing, 4 cars at once, no problem. We've got that working. That's still a little bit up in the air. It may be that we even get some of the press and some of our consumers involved and say, is this worth our time to put that mode in? Because the last thing we want to do, we'd rather have you know that and appropriately understand it and knock us for making the right, knock us or not knock us for making the right decision than making that decision. And then, like some people didn't like the multiplayer modes of Burnout, more from a functionality standpoint. We want to make sure that we got it functional, but it's not the same as when you play the rest of the game right now. So they're trying to see if there's some sort of middle of the road trick that they can do, but it's been tough, because a lot of what happens is a lot of the car traffic's getting out of sync with the other guys. We're really excited about LA Rush because I think once you get your head around what it is, the fact that you have this free roaming sandbox that has missions and racing and is really true to the spirit of what people want out of Rush, which is the huge jumps and kind of the massive shortcuts during the races and the stunts. I mean, you're going to get all that in this game, and then you're also going to get a really cool new piece of technology that's not like Need for Speed, that's not like Midnight Club, that has things in those games. So basically, if someone likes Burnout, if they like Need for Speed, if they like Driver, there's going to be little bits of this game that they're going to like, but it's also going to be different enough to stand on its own and be an interesting purchase for those guys. That's what we're hoping, and that's why we're doing it.